public hearing on the 2011 tax levy to order. The purpose of the hearing, call the roll, please.
Graham? Here. Burke?
Here.
McGrath? Here. Miller?
Here.
Keller? Legs? Sullivan?
Here. Purpose of the hearing is the 2011 Maine Township High School District tax levy. Legal notices were published in the Des Moines Journal, Niles Journal, Park Ridge Golf Mill Journal, Prospect Heights Journal, and Mount Prospect Journal. Report on the tax levy. Mary?
Yes, this year's levy is projected, the levy actually increases by 3.39%. That's larger than the 1.5% under the tax cap, primarily due to new growth. This year, the Rivers Casino will be coming on the tax rolls at about 42% occupancy, as it opened 42% of the way into 2011. On existing property, we should see a 1.5% increase over the prior year, and that represents $22.50 on a $6,000 tax bill or increments therein. Because individual properties aren't taxed, are not limited individually, the individual property tax bill will be based on whether their assessment increases or decreases in comparison to the overall assessment. The tax levy is just over $1.6 million. We anticipate that that amount will be reduced because we don't believe we'll see the $410 million in new growth. While we're not legally required to comply with the truth in taxation notice, in order to provide an opportunity for our community to give input, we do publish in the paper and hold public hearings, which is what we're having tonight to hear from our community on the tax levy.
Thank you. At this time, any citizens who are present are invited to have questions and make statements as members of the Board of Education concerning it. Are there any citizen comment concerning the 2011 tax levy? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Whichever.
Oh, okay. Graham and Burke.
Okay.
All in favor of adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Okay, we move forward to the regular public meeting of District 207. Can we call the roll?
Burke?
Here.
Graham? Here. Miller?
Here.
McGrath? Here. Legs? Keller? Sullivan?
Here, and for the record, it's 7:05 p.m. Please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. You know, in that theory of the last shall be first, since you were the last one in the door, I guess we'll call him first.
Well, I'd like to introduce to you Maine West's nomination for 207's Best is Alvin George. Please stand, Alvin. Alvin is ranked number 2 in our senior class of 519 students with a 4.94 GPA. I was going to use the word awesome to describe Alvin. That's my favorite word, and you know, I don't want to be generic with it, but it matches his name, and lots of A things come to mind. The second Alvin walked in Maine West, he started being awesome. He hasn't gotten anything less than an A. He's an athlete, he's been on the tennis team, he's an ambassador, so he greets students who are transfers to Maine West and helps make them more comfortable at Maine West. He's in all AP classes. Just an amazing all-around student who is all of that, and I'll stop with the A's unless he comes up randomly. Some neat things about Alvin. When I met with him, I was talking about all those different things he's done as a student at Maine West, and I listed off the ambassadors: Coach Tutoring, Pi Sigma Pi, Science Olympiad, Scholastic Bowl, Spanish National Honor Society, tennis, etc. He says, you almost have them all. I'm also on NHS, also a Warrior Pride mentor where he teaches our younger students lessons of character and pride and things like that. And he also volunteers in a nursing rehab home at least 5 hours per week. So not only does he do all of that for Maine West, he also volunteers his time. So he's an all-around amazing student. He was going to be an aide, a teaching assistant in an AP physics class this year because he already had AP Chem, right?
Mhm.
And so Mr. Samita got him to sign up to be a TA in this class. And about 3 weeks into the class, Alvin said, you know what, I'd like to take this class. So 3 weeks in, he started off, he's now at the top of that class performing at an A level. So he's got all AP classes, AP Psych, AP Chem, AP, you name it, he's got it. And he's also a senior leader for our PE program. Mr. Samita obviously enjoys having Alvin around and is really enjoying him now as a student and not a teaching assistant. Mr. McClure said that if he happened to have boys, he's got daughters, that he would want a son just like Alvin, and I would ditto that. If I had a son, I'd like him to be just like Alvin. And he said that students are so, all the accomplishments that Alvin has, on the other side of that, that's how nice he is, which is absolutely amazing. When he talks in class, students listen to him because he's just thoughtful, he chooses his words wisely, he's polite, and he always encourages other students to achieve at higher levels, just like he does all the time. And Tony's AP English teacher, who gets to see him in class, but also as a coach tutor, says students just flock to him because he's such a caring person and unassuming that he's able to help students easily across the board in any subject area at any time. Alvin's your guy. So, one other comment, one of the comments that Mr. McClure added is that while Alvin is probably going to be a doctor in his future, and he'll tell us a little bit more about that, his writing is so awesome, so perfect, that he's probably going to have the best written prescriptions of any doctor. Which is very fitting. So, I'd like to reintroduce you to Alvin and congratulate him on behalf of Maine West. He is truly one of our best ever. So tell us who's with you tonight, introduce your parents, and then tell us what your plans are for the future.
All right, right over here is my dad, and right over here is my mom. And in the future, I plan on going to medicine, and my top schools are either Northwestern University or Washington University in St. Louis. And I'm also applying to like accelerated programs in case I'm interested. And as of now, I finished all my undergrad applications, and now I just need to touch up my medical school applications. And yeah, it's all going well.
Yes, yes, that's amazing.
Alvin, congratulations.
Thank you.
If you could step forward, the superintendent and board member Graham have gifts for you.
This is for you, certificate, and on behalf of the board, congratulations once again.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck to you.
Well, it's not a paperweight, you can Google that to see what it is, but they're awesome.
Principal Pressler.
Well, I don't have as many A's, but absolutely a grade A candidate we have here. Our nominee from Maine East for 207's Best is Nick Harloff. GPA of 4.7123. Nick ranks academically in the top 1% of our senior class. He's a member of the Gifted Lyceum program, and currently he's taking all sorts of AP things, sort of the requisite AP courses in terms of calc, lit and composition, physics, microeconomics. He's also taken Spanish 4, and interestingly, the thing that I don't necessarily see, but it really speaks to Nick being sort of a Renaissance man, is that he's also taking building trades, which, so again, he really just does a lot of very cool stuff. Again, when we put the word out saying, hey, who do you have out there? There were several names that came to mind, and once we then said, Nick's our man, got very, very quick feedback, and the very consistent sort of information that we heard in terms of ways to describe him were, smart, hardworking, even-keeled, has a really, really good sense of humor. Everybody referenced the sense of humor. Very, very responsible, very personable, charismatic in just sort of the way that he goes about things, but in the very most positive sort of way in terms of just the sort of energy, the respect that he commands from his peers and from teachers, people he's working with. Nancy Lorette, who heads the Junior and Senior Leaders Program in Physical Education, said as a junior leader, Nick was one of the most outstanding leaders to go through the program in her 17 years. Not only wrote lesson plans to rival those of a veteran teacher, but he backed them up with teaching skills and the perspective of a veteran teacher. Well respected and admired by his peers for excellence in the classroom and in the gym. Somebody else described it as a senior leader in PE, he organizes and leads activities for students who are sometimes less than enthusiastic about being asked to actively participate, and yet he leads by example, always with a smile, and gets great buy-in from some of those people. He's able to sell ice to the Eskimos. A lot of interests. Again, he's been an active participant in Lyceum, math team, National Honor Society, has consistently been an achiever on the high honor roll, and has received honors in just about everything from history to science, was recipient of an IHSA Scholastic Achievement Award, and is a talented athlete. He's been a 4-year member of the baseball team, played basketball and soccer during his freshman and sophomore years. As a part of the Lyceum, he took place in they do a service trip. They've been in Iowa, doing some of the flood relief things here the last couple of years. And Judy Tyler was, again, one of his great champions here. Judy heads the Gifted Lyceum program. And yes, not only was he really, really good in terms of just being a hard worker, but led by example, and again, just was always able to lighten the load and a good laugh, a great sense of humor as they worked through that week and a half in Iowa. I want to finish by reading an excerpt that Greg Lundberg, who is one of our English teachers at East, wrote in a letter recommendation recently for Nick, and I excerpted just a little bit here. He said, "I know Nick best as a student in my AP Language and Comp class last year, and we've stayed in close touch since then. From the beginning of the year, he expressed a real love of language and its expressive possibilities. He's a sensitive reader, and his mind attaches itself to language and its expressive possibilities." His mind attaches itself to literary and philosophical issues in ways I have rarely seen in students his age. Over the course of our year together, I watched Nick blossom into a highly effective, verbally precise writer, a writer sophisticated enough to utilize subtle humor in his very thoughtful literary and rhetorical analysis. Nick found many ways to embrace the spirit of the class, and his writing often brought a smile of what I'll call intellectual recognition to my face. Very proud of Nick for his achievements in language, and really for his constant desire to communicate some form of truth in his writing. Finally, a metaphor of sorts. In addition to teaching English, I've been a student of traditional African rhythms for many years. Last year I decided to open each class with a brief rhythmic exercise, a tune-up of sorts. Nick's role was to clap a steady pulse. In keeping with his steady personality, Nick held it down day in and day out, making it possible for everyone else in the class to do their part. Nick is the kind of guy teachers and students love to have around. He's steady, sincere, and always ready with the best. So, for all of these and many things that I have not begun to give nearly the amount of praise that I'm sure is due, we're very, very proud of Nick and wish him well. And who came with you tonight?
Well, first we have over here my dad, and then way in the back, kind of taking the pictures over here is my mom. And then my grandma also came along too.
Very good. What are your plans next year?
I'm actually looking to major in computer software engineering, and also looking to minor in some sort of business area. And I have 2 major schools that I'm looking forward to attending. I have a couple that I'm still deciding on. But the 2 major ones I'm looking forward to are Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, and then University of Nebraska at Lincoln. So,
Good.
So Nick, while you didn't get awesome, you got Renaissance. Dr. Wallace and Mr. Mueller.
We got Renaissance. They say the big points are Renaissance.
Congratulations. Congratulations. And see, we like putting the pressure around you, Sean, so that's why after Awesome and Renaissance, you get to do your introduction. Okay.
Austin Bernarski is Maine South's 207 Best this month. Austin. Actually, Austin was one of the first students that I met when I came to Maine Township last year. He was an officer currently in the senior class, but at that time was an officer in the junior class. And he was there petitioning me to bring back the junior prom with his fellow classmates, which we did. So that was a successful petition on his part. But I point that out because if you don't know Austin at Maine South, you're just not paying attention. Austin is everywhere. Besides being in the top 1% of his class with a 4.84 GPA and taking courses like AP Euro, multivariable calculus, AP English and Comp, AP Economics, he's also very, very involved in the school. Austin's a member of the National Honor Society. He's a Scholastic Bowl team captain. He's the managing editor of Southwards. He's the speech team captain. He's the editor-in-chief of Reaching, our foreign language magazine. He's senior class council secretary, a member of the Constitution team who just arrived back on Friday afternoon as state champions once again, so congratulations to the Constitution team. And he's on the math team as well. And when he doesn't have anything else to do, he volunteers at Lutheran General. He's been an intern at Urban Habitat Chicago. He's volunteered on the U.S. Senatorial campaign. He's been a coach and an NHS tutor as well. His teachers have nothing but praise for Austin. Comments like extremely bright and engaged, though that he may be off the charts intellectually, he's down to earth and works well with students of different ability levels. Mr. Rosenberg says, I remember that he consistently attempted to connect historical lessons with current events and did so flawlessly. Austin is top notch. Another teacher talks about his outstanding ability as the Scholastic Bowl team captain, Mr. Duffers. He sets the highest expectations for himself as well as for the organizations in which he belongs and has a natural ability to motivate others around the cause. Hence, the junior prom. If he has his way, we'll do away with senior finals as well.
Much better luck in bringing junior prom back. Senior finals.
Austin is truly a dynamic role model with his peers, which has greatly contributed to the success of the Scholastic Bowl team. In many ways, and this echoes what we've heard of the other students, working with Austin seems like working professionally with a colleague. His creativity is always flourishing, his knowledge of various subjects is extensive, and he never hesitates to take the lead when work needs to get done. And lastly, Mr. Downing says he's an outstanding student and an even better individual. Throughout the year, as I got to know Austin, I was impressed by not only his intellect, but his fine character. His willingness to use his strong academic skills to assist others in their outstanding of course material makes him an excellent example of Hawk Pride here at Maine South. He's very well respected by his peers and the faculty because of his positive personality and ability to work well with others. Mr. Downing has nothing but positive statements to make about Austin and congratulates him on this honor. That's the theme you hear. Austin, there's nothing but positive praise for Austin around Maine South. And we are very lucky to have him as one of our students because he always advocates for other individuals in the building. And that comes through in everything that he does. It's that empathy in conjunction with his academic prowess which really illustrates his true potential. In a minute, we're going to ask him who's with him and what are his plans. And as I put this together and I think about Austin, my question is, will Austin be the editor of the Trib or the mayor of Chicago? I don't know which. Or both. Been a long enough life. So with that, we are very proud of Austin Bernarski's 207's Austin, who do you have with you tonight?
With me is my mom, Debbie, and my dad, Tom. And as far as future goals, I hope to study environmental studies. I do not know where I will be attending next year, but I got in my app to Yale early, so fingers crossed. And then, yeah, environmental studies. President one day, maybe. Just
Congratulations.
Well, the founding fathers wrote the Constitution, they have paperwork.
Austin, we need you to hold tight for a couple minutes because we have one more presentation, and since we do pictures after this, we're going to try and do them all at once. Dr. Wallace?
And we'll squeeze one more thing in. Most of the board members have met her already, but I'd like for Pam Kazee to stand just for a second. Pam is going to be recommended tonight to be District 207's Director of Special Education and Student Personnel Services, beginning in July of 2012 to replace Lynette Williams, who's retiring this year. This position, as most know, is a crucial position. George Christensen is fortunate to be with us here this evening and knows just how important this role is in District 207. When we started our search, we had candidates literally from around the country, as far away as Alaska, apply for this position, about 40 in all. And it turns out that in Pam's district, Hinsdale 181, they withdrew from their co-op last year, and Pam actually had to present, I think, to 11 or 12 boards down there. And when we went to the state of Illinois this year to look at this process, they recommended a plan. They said it's the best model plan out there, and it happened to be from District 181, and Pam wrote it. So she's written the model plan that the state of Illinois is using, and she's done some amazing things, some of which I've shared with the Board of Education. So I just wanted to, for a moment, because she's going to leave in a little bit, kind of ask her to stand and acknowledge her this evening. Hopefully the board will accept the recommendation for Pam Kazee to be our new Director of Special Education. And then we have one more special thing, and it's kind of nice that the 207's best are here because the lady I'm going to introduce here in just a moment is a 207's best from a while back, but this is what it looks like to be 207's best when you go out in the world and you really work hard and you do great things for other people. Dr. Margie Getz is a graduate in 1971 of Maine East High School. She is a physician in the Pediatrics Division at Advocate Lutheran General, and she is here tonight on behalf of the class of 1971 at Maine East High School to present the Education Foundation a check to the amount of $14,026 to benefit the district school-based health center, which provides crucial services to students in this district in need. And we could spend hours just talking about the many good things that they do. But I'd like to introduce Dr. Getz, and we have a check presentation, and then we're going to get a few photos after this.
I'm very humbled by what you said. Thank you. This is what it looks 40 years later with gray hair.
Nice to have.
It's all right if I may present this on behalf of my committee and all of my friends that were attending, and it meant so much to them. I want to say that just a little thing. First of all, I'll make a correction. I'm a PhD in medicine. So I always try to make sure that people know that. And I want to make sure I say the names. The committee with Bonnie Bierman, all graduates from 71, Deb Bieber, Tom Heenan, David Hiller, who was the publisher of the Tribune, so aim for that, that's a good idea. Bill Rosenheim and Heidi Reedman, and we had a wonderful time planning this, but they knew it was really near and dear to my heart that we want to give back. It's our home. And so coming back there is really home to all of us. What I think I want to tell you is the motto for school-based health is be well and do well. And you know, it's more than just a saying, it's really neurobiology that kids can't do what they have to do every day in school, what you do, you know, all your peers, unless they feel well, and unless that's emotionally feel well and physically feel well. And so we want to, on behalf of my wonderful class, we want to present this to you. Alvin Burke is my very good friend, and Dr. Norman is my new friend. And we will continue. There's more money coming, actually.
Yes, we're glad to hear that. Does anyone have a paperweight?
We're very serious. We will continue, and I want to also thank Dr. Preston because
Thank
he
you
is
for everything.
And my friends sitting there, Scott and John Eger and Joyce Christensen, who really trained me, and Irene. They're just my
We can handling things.
Take it away again.
There we go. Bring them on one side of the check, I'm just a little bit more than the other side. There we go. That's good.
Okay.
Are you okay there?
They're actually going to step in the hall so you have another chance to get the shot. So Alvin, Nicholas, Austin, if you go to the hall, the principals will be out there. We'll get a picture of you out there in the hallway. And any board members who want to join Dr. Wallace in the picture, they're going to go out in the hallway and get a picture with you. Dr. Wallace, I don't know if you did.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
First. Abandoned everything. You're gonna have the opportunity for pictures.
Oh, okay, no business. I know, right? Yeah.
We're down 1-0.
We'll get there one of these days, you know? Best part of the full board meeting.
Alden Jeff Lisa came in and bought TSX back.
Oh, did he really?
It's actually, he hasn't taken it. Oh, yeah. Paul Even brought him in, Paul Even's son.
Oh,
Good. I see Paul pretty often. He's been consulting with Chicago a lot.
he's working with
The State Board of Education. His son's an English teacher at Fountain, and his son's wife is a teacher of ours in the East. Is she English too?
Yeah. And they got twins. And janitor taking care of them. And Joanne, she's a judge here. And by the end of the week, Paul and janitor grant. I saw them Friday night.
Yeah, Paul stops in once in a while. We're across the street from
Yeah.
my office.
Yeah.
You can get out to space. But they are in the managed area of Greg's Landing, which is where they do it.
Yeah, they have a smaller one, that's what they want. Nowhere. Which surprises me, because when they did it, they had a big yard, they always, flowers and that's all. Are you back now?
Okay, we are back in session. We're going to move on. Are there any public comments to come before the board under communications? Hearing none. Updates from board member and/or superintendent. Building copies of the board.
We wanted to review a discussion that we had, I think, at a previous board meeting. Is the board interested in surveying staff members to see if there's interest? And I hope I'm asking that the right way, Eric. So,
Well, my recollection was that they were going to be surveyed.
okay, well, that's not the recollection we had, but we can certainly survey them.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine, but I don't think that the intent out of the discussion was that we were gonna not survey them and never have another breakfast, so.
Okay.
I think that probably one of the two would be nice,
Okay.
subject to obviously the wishes of the rest of the group, but that was my concern, it just kind of fell on.
We're surveying them to ask
Well, the substance of the discussion, as I remember it, which obviously there's a variation in memories of different individuals at the table, but as I remember it was that we wanted to see if maybe they wanted something in the afternoon or something a little bit different, or maybe have different kinds of donuts, or I don't know what all they were going to be surveyed about, but there was some thought that perhaps they should be surveyed prior to scheduling additional breakfast, which I agreed with at the time. I think that was prudent. I mean, it's been essentially the same for many, many years.
Would they be more inclined to come in the afternoon?
Yeah, but I think the interaction opportunity is one that we shouldn't lose.
I think the feeling was that the attendance has been
Yeah.
pretty slim, and so.
You know, another thought, and I don't know if you're interested in this, but we could include this as part of the survey, but, you know, being in the back of the cab, for example, during lunch breaks is probably a good way to catch a lot of people. People are coming there anyway, if the board is interested in looking at that.
I know you're going to lose some board members.
Okay, so survey and get back to us, let us know. Mr. Burke, you want to update us on report from the Buildings and Grounds Committee?
A couple of things. We didn't have a meeting since our last board meeting, but we do have two issues that I need to bring up. One is, talked with Mike Gallus. I think there was quite a bit of interest on the part of our committee to do a walkthrough of the three buildings. The week after New Year's, school, there'll be no students, but the buildings are available. It'll be a good time to do that. So Margaret, Eric, I'm not sure what days would work for you. Nothing?
Nothing, we're out of town that whole
You're
week.
gone the whole week.
But if you take pictures, she'll look at them when she gets back.
How would you feel if we did one, Eric and I, if Eric's available,
I could probably find a day.
and then you'd be available for the next two? I mean, that means you're only getting 2/3 out of the other.
Do you have weekday time
I
occasionally?
usually can, schedule around things, especially Wednesday's the day I work at home.
Yeah.
So-
That would be your better day then?
Yeah,
Oh,
Do
good.
you want to do that then?
Wednesday mornings, I often can make myself available.
yeah,
Okay. Do we want to do this then the week after that?
that's fine.
If we could set a date or a time, a day and a time. I think Mike said any day would work for him, so he's not here, but, so we're talking about the week of the 9th?
Right, talking about the 11th.
So Wednesday, the 11th? That work?
Getting there, technology moving slowly.
Mary, you okay? Does Mary
That,
work?
that works fine. I just would ask that we not do weeks in a row, just
Yeah, sure.
about my scheduling.
Doesn't have to be done all at once.
So what time?
Can we say?
Well, at
11th is
8:30?
Of what month? January?
Yeah.
January
January,
11th.
it's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
Oh, you know what, I think it was defaulting to 11th.
January
Yeah, that's
11th
fine.
at 8, does 8:30 or 9, what's best for you?
Earliest that
Eight-
works for Eric.
8,
works for
8:30?
me.
8:30 is fine.
8:30, okay, let's do that. And then we need a committee meeting
And which
at the
school
east,
is
I
it?
would think. We'd start with the east, unless we have a reason not to. Ken would,
I think
I
East
think
is,
east would be the first place to start.
A couple hours, you think?
Probably, I don't know, it's a big building,
it's a big building.
2.5.
We probably won't get into a lot of classrooms, but we can hit a classroom of each type.
Yes. But we need to see the workings of
Correct.
the building so that we know what the conditions are. So
The
when we-
fun space.
So when we see these expensive things coming across the table, we know what it's about. So Wednesday, the 11th at 8:30?
Okay.
And also, if we could have a meeting starting at 5:30 on the, what's our next board meeting date?
The 9th.
January 9th. If we could have a 5:30 meeting at that time to discuss, Mary, you said?
Capital outlay
Capital outlay.
for 12-13.
5:30, does that work? You may have a little trouble getting here by 5:30?
5:30 could be a little bit of a challenge.
Well, we need an hour and a half, Mary thinks.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be that day. I need an hour and a half sometime in January. First
I
three.
just like to stack them if we can, but if we can't, then that's, we can pick another day.
5:30 is a little earlier than I generally can make. I mean, generally in the office.
So would you rather do another day then and then come a little later?
Yeah.
Mary, do you have a preference?
I have no preference, so any day that works.
Well, we're going on the 9th, so if we go a week or two later, how about the 24th at at 6.
What day of the week is it?
That's a
Tuesday.
Generally, just Thursday evenings and Friday evenings, I can be available in the
So
evening.
Thursday evening would work better,
Yeah.
so the 26th?
Could we go the 19th?
19th?
Because I'm thinking we've got to get that information into the board packet.
Okay,
for
so the
February.
19th? Does that work, Margaret?
So far, yep.
Gary, does that work?
Just a moment. Yeah, that's fine.
At 6:30, what's best? 6:30?
I'm just thinking in case we have to do a finance committee meeting, do we want to push it earlier or later? Ed, would you, an hour and a half, would you be available at 7:30 that night? Because I know we need to have a finance committee meeting eventually, so then maybe we can do 6. And Margaret seems to like the idea.
Yeah. Excited beyond belief.
And you have to do one in December too.
Later
Or at least it's all one shot.
The 19th.
19. Or we could do, I mean, I don't know what all you have for finance.
We will live for December, and it gets lighter.
So maybe 6 o'clock,
So 6 o'clock on the 19th for building and grounds, and I'll let you take care of it.
and then tentatively, you know, may as well, you think you need one in January, right?
I will need one in December and in January.
So that's, unless Margaret, you prefer that it was on a different night.
No, no.
I figured get it
Yeah,
all done
try
in
to-
one shot.
So Thursday, January 19th, is at 7:30.
Yes.
How long do you think we need, Mary? An hour?
Probably an hour.
So we review on the 9th at 8:30 a.m., Main East.
The 11th.
The 11th was the buildings and grounds, and
Oh,
this is a
that's
different
right.
meeting.
We moved it to the 11th,
It was
8:30.
8:30.
8:30, and then the 19th at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. is buildings and grounds.
Building and
7:30
grounds,
finance.
followed by finance. Okay, that's all I have.
Anything else? Education committee, Joanne?
Yes, the education committee, actually was just held in Lanai this time, Donna wasn't available. We met on the 29th of November to discuss the 5 different policies that relate to class rank. And so Barb is going to talk about the proposed changes in the first reading this evening. And then we had some discussion about Don Marzoff's plan to put together the National Student Clearinghouse Report, which is going to track how our students do after they graduate here, looking at college enrollment and graduation information. And I forget when we have to have some information.
I would guess it's probably in February.
February,
Because
okay.
we need to circulate it in-house and make sense of it. But this has been something we've been working with for a while. I think we handed out at it last year.
Yeah, so that's some good information for us. And so relatively short meeting, and that was it.
Any other communications coming from the board? Okay, monthly status finances, Mary?
The new board packet is the October financial report. On the revenue side, we've collected 22% of the budgeted revenue. It's been slightly behind, but we would anticipate that because the tax revenue, all of it is not in yet. On the expenditure side, we're at 25%. This is primarily driven slightly up because of like the health, life, safety fund and the operation maintenance fund, where those are capital projects intensive and those funds get spent during the summer. So as of October, on both the revenue and expenditure side, we are tracking within our budgetary amounts.
Any question on the finances? Any instructional services, Barb?
There are no reports this month.
Okay. Dr. Wallace, monthly update of FOIA requests?
2 requests, both processed.
Next item, number 6, policies and procedures, first reading. 5415, grading system. While I'll read them all. 5422 weighted grade points, which also includes 5422.3, 5423 class ranking, 5425 main scholars award, and that's it. So, Barb, grading system.
Okay, so as Joanne indicated, the Ed Committee meeting, we looked at all of the policies that had any reference to class rank, and it was the consensus of the committee to bring forward these policies, revising them so as to drop out class rank and that procedure from what we do here at Maine. So I'm going to walk you through the policies and tell you where the changes are, and then invite any questions. So under tab 6, you'll see that there are some policies that we just put in front of you with no changes so that you can see what's still going to be there. 5415, there's no change to that first page nor the back side of it. So the first page front and back is without change. The second page, 5415, the front page, which is 5415 for explanation of grades, there's no change to that. But when you get to the back side of the page, the two policies that are numbered 5415.5 grade change procedures and 5415.6 repeating a course. Those are the two that I need you to look at with me. So let's take the first one to start with. This one was actually one that you'll remember looking at the press policy, we realized we needed to add last year. And as the committee last week looked at this, they decided just to add to it the part that says, and give written notification to the teacher. So that when a grade change is being made, not by the teacher, there is some loop that's closed so that the teacher gets notified in writing that that change will be made. That's the addition to that policy. The second policy there, 5415.6, repeating a course. This chunk came from a later policy we'll look at in a minute, which is policy 5423 that's we're suggesting is deleted. So we're placing it here because this piece we still need. And we did add in, however, the word highest grade. So in other words, if a student is repeating a course, it will include only the highest grade for the repeated course. Credit will be awarded based only on the highest grader. So the word highest is new.
And the practice, again, is?
That's what the practice
Okay.
is.
So that,
We're matching our policy to what our practice is.
right, okay.
The next policy on the facing page, which is 5422.3, is also one that has some changes in it. We added the opening phrase, effective with the graduating class of 2013, which means everything that follows is going to apply to that class, which these are our current juniors. They will be seniors next year, and every class thereafter would be impacted by this class. So it does not impact our current seniors. So effective with the graduating class of 2013, student grade point average will be reported in two different ways, weighted and non-weighted. The non-weighted GPA would give the exact same value to every course. Then we're deleting the next sentence. Our class rank based on the non-weighted GPA will also be calculated, however. The next sentence then would read, the selection of the main scholars and honor roll designees will be based on the weighted GPA period. And we're deleting and class ranking. So those are the changes in 5422.3. Walking with me through this. The next one, 5423, class ranking. It was decided to keep in at least the opening sentence. Effective with the graduating class of 2013, District 207 shall no longer calculate class ranking, so that's definitively stated what we would not any longer be doing. Keep going, 5423 would totally be deleted, and at the meeting we looked at places where any parts of this policy we had to retain were found to make sure that we weren't deleting something that was important. And 5425, the very last policy that has any reference to this, relative to Maine Scholars Award in this case, reads as follows, as we revised it. The Board of Ed will recognize the top 1% of the graduates in each high school as Maine Scholars. The selection of students to be so honored shall be based on the student's 8-semester weighted cumulative, we added that word, grade point average, period.
So with respect to the Maine Scholars, just kind of reading through this, essentially you would look at a class and say, okay, 1% of this class is 5. So then you're going to look at a list of all the GPAs and pick the 5 highest GPAs?
In May or June, whenever that's calculated, so it's
Yeah,
long
seniors
after
who
college
finished
applications.
Is it possible that there could be 7 equally ranked first place GPAs? Or would that be extremely unusual?
Well, it's, no, when you get to those 5
Yeah.
points, yeah.
You could end up with your last 2, I mean, they wouldn't all be, but all you need is the last 2 to be the same, and then you've got an extra student, so.
Or as Sean just said, there were 8 in Maine South last year, so the answer is yes.
Okay.
It would be more than 5.
There were 8 Maine Scholars?
From Maine
What was the
South.
size of your class last year?
7.
Because you were tied.
Because it was tied.
7 and 8 were tied.
7 and 8 was that?
And we were in 6.
So you would have had 7, but you had 8.
The top 1% was just one kid at Maine Western. No matter how big your class was.
Where did you go to school?
Because insulting.
I know. I thought because you were at that graduation. That was my point. If you've been there, you would have seen all the kids. Dr. Hagen, it's not me. It's okay? You can address the issue with him after the meeting.
As Wayne said, when he has his classroom unit, he has to raise $15,000.
We can pull out of the system as many decibels.
Or the field house, whichever you choose to raise it for.
No, 15 million.
Yeah.
That'll be a good idea.
Yeah.
John, a quick comment. You probably all know that I don't think this is a good idea. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it tonight because it's the first reading. I would like to spend a few minutes just kind of summarizing my views on it.
Well, I think, yeah, in the next meeting. Do you have any questions relevant to her presentation though?
It's always like, yeah, I'd just like to make sure that everybody has the following things, and please try to review it between now and the next meeting. The first, I don't know if you remember, we all received very early when the discussion just started, a national letter from the student urging us not to do away with ranking. If you don't remember that, again, just let anybody need any of the things, let me know between now and the next meeting. Second, there was an email from Jeff Bergen, former board member, former board president, chairman of the math department at DePaul University, who called the idea of eliminating class rankings a terrible idea. If you don't have it or you don't remember it, let me know. There were some emails from parents, the ones that I remember, I think their name was DeStefano or something like that. If anybody wants to look at those again, let me know. And finally, I assume you've seen my reasons that I think it's a bad idea. And so just to save time at the next meeting, if you look those, if anybody would like any of those documents, let me know so that both sides can be represented. One last question on this. This is really more a question, I guess, for the Barbara County. Has the Community Advisory Council been consulted at all on this issue, or is that just hasn't come up with there?
No, I mean, it's come up a little just from people in there, but the feedback I've gotten from the advisory council, because a lot of them are current parents, they've all been in favor because they were, there were a couple of South parents that had situations similar to the one we met last year from Missouri. So the only feedback, and I didn't solicit feedback, it came up in the course of discussion when we were discussing it last year, but I didn't survey them or anything like that.
Okay, any other items on the first reading? Hearing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda, 7A, I'm going to split. So we'll start with a motion on 7A, September 3rd, special workshop. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Burke, second.
Second.
Graham, questions or comments in the special board workshop for over 30 minutes? Hearing none, call the roll.
McGrath. Abstain. Burke.
Yes.
Graham.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Lees.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye. Now can I have a motion on the regular board meeting minutes from November 7th, 2011.
So moved.
Graham, second.
Second.
Second, Burke. Questions or comments on the meeting minutes from November 7th?
And on page 5, already shown this to Ginny, there's a discussion under 2011 tax levy. It's about page 5, as I said, kind of towards the bottom. Again, President Sullivan submitted the motion to vote. Oh, sorry, I tried to go back. It was moved by Member Miller and seconded by Member Lays to amend the tax levy to 0% tax freeze for the coming year. I thought that was a little either redundant or contradictory. I think what we meant to say, and whether we actually said this, I think this what we meant was to amend the tax levy to a tax freeze, not a 0%, i.e. a 0% tax increase is the way I'd like it to read, versus I think what we did.
Well, but, and specifically, after you made the proposal on the motion, and you said you'd like to propose a 10-year tax freeze, that's, I mean, it was tax freeze was
But the
specifically.
motion was not for 10 years.
And it's not a
No,
zero-
no, it wasn't,
it's not a 0%
because he
tax
said
freeze.
that.
What's a
After he said he'd like to
0%
do a
tax freeze?
10-year tax freeze, he said, but I know that won't pass, so I'll propose one, and that's when.
No, my recollection is that he said he knows that that's not possible, not that he knew it wouldn't pass.
Okay. But the point was we were talking about tax freeze.
Right.
Okay.
But I think Ed's point, Sean, is not to remove the tax freeze or anything like that. It's just that I think the wording there is a little bit.
If you look at the prior paragraph, it's worded differently about it. President Sullivan asked questions or comments. Member Miller wishes to propose a tax freeze, a 0% levy increase for the coming year. That's I think clear. What's unclear is when it says it was moved by Member Miller, seconded by Member Lays to amend the tax levy to 0% tax freeze.
You could also put the words tax freeze in parentheses.
Yeah, it's to
Levy of
amend the tax levy.
There's a couple ways you could.
To a tax freeze, i.e. a 0% tax increase, I think would be clear. So moved it. Or was it moved yet?
There has been a motion on this, but the motion was Graham, the second was Burke, right?
Yes.
But what we're looking at here is, I'm trying to find the minutes so we can get the exact wording of what you're proposing.
Okay.
If you put brackets around tax freeze, would that take care of it?
It was moved by Member Miller and seconded by Member Lays to amend the tax levy to a 0% tax freeze, and you're proposing.
0% tax increase, I have to say. I don't know what a 0% tax freeze is.
Well, and granted, possibly neither did we, but that was the language that you brought up, because you talked about tax freeze. Well, you know, the minutes are reflecting
Would you
what
be
occurred.
okay with just putting parentheses around tax freeze? Because it says amend the tax levy to 0%.
Increase. 0% tax freeze is fine, but 0% increase is what we proposed.
Yeah,
Is there really any lack of clarity here, Sean, as to what we were proposing?
No, I don't think there was any lack of clarity when you said you were proposing.
Teed up in the prior paragraph.
When
The
you-
way you wrote it, it's just that the motion is garbage.
And when you made the motion for a 0% tax freeze, that's what we're trying to reflect in the minutes.
So why don't we take the language that's in the preceding paragraph and just transfer that?
Which line specifically?
Member Miller wishes to propose a tax freeze, comma, a 0% levy increase for the coming year.
Precisely.
Any objection?
And use that language in
Any
the
objection? There's no objection to amending the minutes that way. So Joanne, you're okay with it? Ellen, you're okay with the change in the minutes? And your motion goes to the minutes as amended? Okay, call the roll. Oh, any other further comments on the minutes? Hearing none, call the roll.
Burke,
Yes.
McGrath. Aye. Lays.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Graham.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Aye. Next item we have, is there any reason to separate anything else out under 7, other than minutes?
I just have a question
Go
when I
ahead.
was reading through, item G, the library grant application. We seem to get a couple of items from that. Were there more items? Did somebody select those items? Why were those items the ones that we received in the packet?
Every year to meet the requirements of applying for this grant, which is a per capita grant, The librarians are required to review program components under the Illinois School Library Media Program Guidelines, and they get to select which ones they wish to review, and that's what you have here listed. So they don't have to review all of them. It's really just kind of a perfunctory step they have to go through. And we submit this and say when we brought it to the board, and then we get our per capita allowance, which is, I want to say it's about $1 per student. It's around 6,000 to 7,000, I believe we get. It might be a little less than that. But it's part of the requirement.
Is there anything you want to separate out, or are you okay with the motion? Okay. Do we have a motion on the remainder of the consent agenda, 7B through 7G?
So moved.
Graham, second. Second, McGrath. Questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Lees.
Aye.
Graham. Yes. Miller.
Aye.
Burke.
Yes.
McGrath. Aye. Sullivan.
Aye. 8, second reading on 4401, retirement benefits. Recommendation of the Board of Education approves and adopts the above policy for inclusion in the Board of Education policies and procedures manual. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Burke, Graham. Questions or comments on 4401?
Greg, we spent a fair amount of time to just explain again for me, if you will, is this a matter of clarification or is it a matter of increased cost? That's what I don't quite understand.
Well, it's actually a matter to safeguard the board from not increased costs, but advanced payments up front from the actuarial costs of any salary increases that exceed 6%.
So the gist of it is to spread it out over the 30 years, is that what it basically does?
This allows us to be able to spread it out if that members are grandfathered. And that's if the sum total of all of their payments from, the retirement incentive, unpaid, unused vacations, unused sick days exceeds the 6%.
Which we thought that almost never happened.
Without having this grandfather status, we would pay the actual cost right up front.
So that's what this does, as opposed to change the benefits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no change in the benefits.
That's what I kind of remember, but I want to be sure.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Miller. Burke.
Yes.
McGrath. Aye. Graham. Yes. Lees.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye. Number 9, approval of school calendars for 2012 to 2015. Recommendation Board of Education approves school calendars for 2012 to 2015 as presented. Is there a motion? Graham, second. Second, Burke. Questions or comments on the motion?
Quick question, if you could call your attention to, if I could call your attention to June of 2012, which is the first page of the calendar. What day did finals begin in this calendar?
June of 2012, actually, you're talking about 2013, right?
No, actually, I'm talking the 2013, right?
Right, final exams would be Tuesday the 4th, 5th, and 6th. And you can see there's a little, to the right, there's a little legend. So that Monday of June, June 3rd, that's traditionally the last day of instruction. A lot of teachers do a big review on that day prior to finals.
And then the 7th is not a paid day.
No. No. The 6th is the 185th day for the calendar.
And then the finals that day or not?
On the 6th, there are.
So it's not all four days?
No, just 3.
No.
The 4th, 5th, and 6th are finals, but Monday the 3rd is a regular instructional day. Tends to be a review.
This has to do with my question is we talked about the snow day things, whether it be snow days, whether there's room. And what this shows is that if you had to make up a snow day, you would push things back.
Yeah, for example, if the board chose not to forgive one snow day, then you could simply end the week on that Friday.
You could?
Yeah, but if you go,
Oh, yeah.
it's going past that now, you're in the
Right.
next week.
The 11th in this example is when summer school starts, for example.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any Any other questions or comments on the calendars? Hearing none, call the roll.
McGrath.
Aye.
Graham.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Lace.
Aye.
Dirk.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Aye. Number 10, school improvement plan, that the Board of Education set the recommendation of superintendent of schools to approve school improvement plan for Maine East, Maine West, and the district improvement plan as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Graham, second.
Second.
McGrath. Questions or comments on the motion?
So, let's see, why not south at this point?
What we're bringing forward to you at this point is simply some bureaucratic paperwork that's required under some new processes and procedures from ISBE. We have been slowly moving to Rising Star is the name of it. I don't know if you remember that from last year. And we added one school this year, and South eventually probably will join the fold. This is an online application that is really kind of a project management tool that they are requiring us, particularly schools that are farther down the AYP sanction list, to have to complete. What I wanted to tell you though is that while there's a lot of print and a lot of points here to read through, we're really excited about some of the things that are going on in the buildings. And as we talked about what would be meaningful for you, I think we're going to move more to maybe a twice a year kind of reporting out to the board, not using this necessarily, but talking to you about what are our major initiatives and improvement efforts going on, and linking it to some of the data from the PLTs in a very meaningful, down-to-earth way, so you can see what this all really looks like in the buildings. That's not going to happen tonight. What we're required to do tonight is simply to get you to acknowledge that you've seen this, that you approve it. The two building principals involved tonight will give you a very brief synopsis of what is here, but right now this is kind of a bureaucratic protocol that we have to follow. And if you looked at this, you saw for the district and the two buildings that there are a series of indicators that this project management tool and its research base have indicated we need to address. And they have to do with processes and procedures, how we organize our committees, do we have mechanisms for dealing with obstacles and change processes, do we include data, are we looking at how we're allocating resources to these efforts? Do we have a district vision? Is our school improvement plan linked to student achievement? And we can provide, enough detail that fills one of the little boxes in the tool, but it's not the place really where we expound on it to any great extent. Now, what we did do is provide for you, if you kind of, the first several pages are the district tool that I completed with our help of one of our consultants with ISBE. And then there's a signature page we have to get our board president to sign. But then we come to the Maine East Improvement Plan, and Mike has given you a couple of pages of summary. In a few minutes, I've got him on the clock. You can have up to 4.5 minutes to talk here about what's on these two pages. Maybe less if Sean gets ugly with it.
Minus the time that you've already spent on this, but yes.
I was setting it up.
Yeah, and I'm just setting him up too, to be prepared.
And then if you keep paging through, you'll find the same two kinds of pages of summary they've given you.
Real quickly, does this replace the reports we used to get?
It replaces the state template, yes. We're all moving into this. I have to say, a lot of us don't like this particular
Get
benefit,
that.
but it's required.
Okay.
So I'm going to allow Mike to start and then Audrey to conclude.
Yeah, the problem is, Mike and Audrey could be steering their conversation best betting on where the line is, but it's okay. Look at her looking at the time, she's just checking it out. Mr. Pressler, go ahead.
I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. You can take a look at the bullet points. Really, we have 4 goals for Maine East. First two are somewhat redundant in terms of literacy and numeracy. We're really putting a lot of stock in the professional learning communities in terms of really the way that is requiring every one of our faculty members to really become very well acquainted with the Common Core standards. And as we move toward really a standards-based sort of a curriculum and instruction, really being able to come, put a sharp-edged scalpel on what kids know, what they don't know, how we keep track of it when we have to remediate or we talk about interventions, whether it's response to intervention, our tier 1, our tier 2 interventions. To be very clear, when we give additional time and support and resource to a student, exactly why that is, so the student has an understanding for what they need to do, and as using Barb's terminology, what the on-ramp is for an intervention, what the off-ramp is, what do I need to prove to get back out of that, to have a little more choice and agency about what we do. So a lot of those bullets are going to very specifically relate back to the PLCs, talking again about what kids are doing, when we need to reteach, when we need to differentiate our instruction. We're still working quite a bit with problem-based learning, inquiry learning, in terms of really being a little more creative, and something that students, I think, will find much more engaging, a little more relevant to their interests, strengths, and abilities. So again, you can read through those 2 bullets. The 3rd and 4th goals for school climate. Big thing that I would say immediately is there's nothing wrong with Maine East. It's when I say that I think we can improve our school climate, it's not like you're going to walk into a hostile environment. However, I think we can do a lot better in terms of improving and enhancing the manner in which all of us speak to each other and work with each other, whether that's student to student, adult to adult, student to adult, involving parents, and really putting a focus on that. So while I think we've got a building full of the sweetest kids in the world and kids who are willing to work hard and they really appreciate everything that a lot of our teachers do and the extra steps they go for, we can do better, and I think we can do a lot more in terms of, on a regular basis, becoming part of our culture, surveying students, what their thoughts are, because I mean, really, students and the parents are our customers, if you will. And I think they can tell us a lot about how we can take something that's been good, very good, pretty good, and make it even better, make it more relevant, and in terms of providing resources that parents are better able to take advantage of, the sorts of things. So again, we're working on our R-code, the PBIS, Positive Behaviors Intervention Supports. Going to work again to systematically collect some survey data, really looking at our current practices related to policies affecting discipline and attendance, where the data tells us that we have too many kids that are not in school every day, and some of that may be some things we have in place, so I think we can serve our kids a little better with that. We are piloting an executive function curriculum and guided study, which has really been very, very effective for some kids who may have 1 or 2 failures and that sort of thing, but working there. Intro to High School program has really been highly successful with our incoming freshmen. We'd like to expand it, see more kids take advantage of the engagement those kids have demonstrated. 3 years we've been running it in terms of being involved not only academically, but in terms of clubs, athletics, extracurriculars, electives, has been very, very good, and those are our kids that are emerging as our leaders at Maine East, so we really want to do more with that. And then goal 4 is again related, a little different, just increasing our student-parent community involvement and communications at Maine East, 2-way communications. So we really are listening to what people have to tell us, trying to be very clear, be effective in communicating in the ways that are going to be effective for our parents based on technology or lack of technology, based on the various linguistic challenges that we may see there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions at all? Thank you.
Audrey? Just a quick difference in Mike's plan and my plan. In going through the new Rising Star online system, they have 106 indicators there. Throughout the course of the year, you're supposed to look at those indicators.
Did Mike skip any of them? I mean, is that what you're doing?
No, I'm going to share a funny story with you. I know there are 106 because I did all 106 of them, because I didn't read the directions. And I created this mountain of work, and I over the Thanksgiving break, I called Mike and I said, "Are you doing this? This is insane. This is really crazy." And he said, "Well, I'm already finished. I already submitted every bit." And I said, "I'm only on 97 or something, or 74." He said, "We're only supposed to do about 24 of them." So then,
You didn't do all 100.
right, and there was silence, because I had. But then the problem is, oh, and then I thought, okay, that's all right, I'll just then do the requirement for the 24, however many hours, so those are done. It doesn't let you just do those, you have to do all of them, you have to do all the steps for all of them because I did that. So my improvement plan is longer because I did all of the 106. But what's interesting about it, if you look at the plan, if you look to the right-hand side, they have an indicator, and then it says level of development, and it's either, you have to put in full implementation, limited implementation, or you haven't started it at all. And if you put limited or you haven't started at all, that becomes your school improvement plan. And so when I got through all 106 of those, what I found out was that there are only 17 things that are not fully implemented at Maine West, which is, I thought, very good. But that's because, you've heard me talk about this for 7 years, we've been in the restructuring phase for all 7 years that I've been principal, so we've been working on these things. You heard about our freshman curriculum. So our goals haven't changed much in those 7 years, but our processes have changed. So very briefly, we have a skills-based curriculum now that we're monitoring very closely with data. So our teachers have to show how are our students doing on specific skills, and they stop. If the students haven't gotten to a certain level, they stop what they're doing, they don't just move on. So if they get a bunch of students who get an F on the assessment, they don't just say, sorry, you didn't get it, we're moving on. They stop and they say, wait a second, well then maybe we better reteach this, or maybe we better put an intervention in place. And so we have 2 major interventions, and that's the STAR program for our freshmen. If the kids don't get the skills, when we do our skills test, they come out of freshman study hall and into an intervention, really intensive skills-based study hall. It's going great. Parents are loving it, and the kids don't mind it either because they're getting the help that they need. And then the one that the kids don't like is WHAM. We're whamming them on Wednesdays. If they don't do their homework, you come in on Wednesday assignment makeup. So during the time when teachers are doing collaboration, if you haven't done your homework, Sean, I'm going to wham you, I'm going to call your parents, and you're coming in just to...
I'm there anyway, so...
So you're coming into Wednesday morning to do your homework.
Yeah.
The failure rates at Maine West are way down for the first quarter. We're hoping that continues for freshmen because we're on top of that. That's not something we've done in the past. So in a nutshell, those are our biggest changes. The interventions are in place, and we're really monitoring the skills. And then we can show, I'm a classroom teacher, and I really made this progress with my students. Which is something that we hadn't really done in the past. It was, I'm a good teacher, and here are my grades. Now it's, I'm a good teacher, and here's my data to prove it.
So per usual, in terms of 207's best, Mike is an A+, but you're an AP Rising Star.
Yes, but because I didn't read the directions, so I shouldn't get too much kudos for that.
A little bit of an overachiever there.
No.
I'm sorry, we don't have a paperweight to give you. But if we did, it would be awesome.
Yes. Really, no, I should not be commended for not knowing the directions. Because then Mike said, didn't you read the directions? To which there was silence and some swearing. So.
Real quick question.
Yes.
On the non-WHAM intervention?
Yes.
Is it for all subjects?
Yes, well, most of the core subjects specifically because that's where the Common Core standards are.
Okay.
And the Common Core standards, English, math, social science, and science. So if a student doesn't do well on a common assessment, then that student is placed into that study hall instead of it's a much more structured study hall than a regular study hall where kids can just work on their homework.
But it covers everything in the core.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Wasn't that much more interesting than reading this? I think, when we come back to you in the spring, and we include South in this, because South is doing the thing too, just not this protocol, we'll give you a little bit more detail from each building and some data and some things that they're really doing. I think you'll get a good look at it.
Any other questions? We have a motion from Graham McGrath. Call the roll, please.
Lays.
Aye.
Graham.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
McGrath. Burke.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Aye. Next item is textbook adoptions. 8 new revised editions textbooks are being submitted to the Board of Education for adoption for the 2011-20. This is actually for next year, it's not for this year.
There's one, actually there's a couple of them that are for second semester. Remember this is the second
this year.
on-ramp that we gave you, and you've seen these books?
Right.
last meeting.
One, right.
Right. But
So,
most of them
is
are
this
finished.
correctly from 2011, 2012?
If you look at the handout, it will indicate for you which ones are second semester by 2012-2 under the date trial.
Okay.
And the one that's for next year is 2012-2013. That's how you distinguish it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them for second semester, and one of them is actually booked for next year.
Okay. Can we have a motion that the Board of Education approve and adopt the proposed textbook list for use in the instructional program at Main Township High School District 207? So moved. Burke, second.
Second.
Second, Brand. Questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
McGrath. Aye. Miller.
Aye.
Lays.
Aye.
Burke.
Yes.
Grant. Yes. Sullivan.
Aye. Capital plan, recommendation of the Board of Education approves the 2012-2015 facility plan as recommended by the Buildings and Grounds Committee. Details may be found in the appendices. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Graham and Lays. Questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Graham.
Yes.
Burke.
Yes.
Lays.
Aye.
McGrath.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye. Okay, 13A, tax levy. 211 tax levy, which you filed with Cook County Clerk prior to last Tuesday, December 2011. Recommendation that the Board of Education adopt a resolution providing for the tax levy of taxes by the Board of Education for 2011, the amount of $106,038,952, which is shown in Exhibit A. 2, that the Board of Education certifies the tax for special education programs purposes, which is Exhibit B. And the Board of Education certifies the inapplicability of the Truth in Taxation Act, Exhibit C. I'm going to take a motion on 13A1 first. I have a motion on the resolution providing for the levy of taxes.
So moved.
McGrath, second.
Second.
Graham. Questions or comments on 13A1?
I'd like to forward an amendment. I'm sorry if I was terrible last month, but what I would like to do is amend the proposal that instead of making the tax levy $1,106,038,952, I'd like to amend that to $104 million. And what I've done is I've done the math, and it roughly approximates picking up all the new growth with the end result, and of course you never know for sure, that there will be no increase in the tax for the homeowners.
104 million flat?
104 million, yeah.
Okay.
104 million flat.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Miller and Lays. Any questions or comments on the motion?
Maybe heard again, could you say again?
What the concept is, and you're estimating what your tax levy. So what we're doing is we're actually, the levy is actually like a 3.6% increase. Mary thinks that with the CPI adjustment kicking in, that will be limited to approximately 2.5%. I've calculated very roughly, and I'm open to, have running this, that our new growth, including everything she talked about in the public portion of the meeting, is something over $1 million. And so what I'm suggesting is that we increase the levy, I think it's about $1,500,000, which would, basically the concept is that you'd be picking up all the new growth that you can, and that, God willing, the taxes for the homeowners on average would be approximately the same. And that's what I'm in this book. And I think I've got the numbers right. If there's, if I'm way out, let me know.
There's a motion and a second on the amendment. Are there any other questions?
Wondering from Mary if you would agree that reducing the levy from 106,038,952 to 104 million even would roughly have the practical effect of not resulting in an increase for homeowners?
It would, because you can't separate just new growth, so because it would lower our tax rate, it would reduce the amount that we would get from the new property and shift that to the existing homeowners. So the
But
existing
it would also
homeowner.
reduce theirs within,
It would reduce theirs from what we would propose, but it would be still an increase over the prior year's levy,
But there would be a reduced levy on the new growth.
on the new growth.
I guess my question
You
is,
sure about that?
I'm positive, because the new growth comes on at the tax rate. Reducing the levy will reduce your tax rate.
So that would give essentially almost a tax break to the new growth.
I mean, because it's the same, yes,
In
it's the
fairness,
same
though,
number.
it's like the new growth, instead of, let's say their tax is $100,000, it'd be about 1% less.
Correct.
It'd be
It
99,000.
would be
It's not like you're
negligible.
gonna miss the 99,000, that's what I'm trying to get at. Is you're not sacrificing the new growth, you're giving them the same tax rate you give everybody else. So the concept is, that you would basically pick up at 99% instead of 100% the new growth. So if anybody's understanding that we're missing the new growth, that's not what would happen.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments on the amendment? Hearing none, call the roll on the amendment.
Miller,
Aye.
Lace,
I,
Graham,
No.
Burke,
No.
McGrath,
No.
Sullivan.
No. Amendment fails. The original motion was Graff and Graham. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Burke,
yes.
Miller,
No.
Lace,
No.
Burke, I'm sorry, Graham, yes. Miller, I'm sorry,
Okay, now let's do
McGrath.
that.
Aye.
and Sullivan.
Aye. Did everybody vote?
I think you did.
Did everybody vote once?
We got it.
So, just so we're clear, the vote is 4-2. Motion passes. Is there, can I have a motion on 13A2, that the Board of Education certifies the tax for special education program purposes, which is shown as Exhibit B? Is there a motion? Burke, is there a second? Second, McGrath. Questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll on 13A2.
Burke,
Yes.
Lays,
Aye.
Graham, yes. Miller,
Aye.
McGrath, Sullivan.
Aye. Motion on 13A3, that the Board of Education
I'm
certifies.
sorry, just to cut off on this, John, I really, I know Eric feels the same way, going back to 13B, if we could, I was really surprised at the, oh, we're on 13A2, okay.
We just voted 13A2, now I'm on 13A3.
I thought we skipped to B. Got it.
I'm sorry. 13A3, that the Board of Education certify the inapplicability of the Truth in Taxation Act in Exhibit C. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Graham, second.
Second.
Questions or comments? Yes.
Could you just clarify, I think this is just a legal.
This is a procedural thing. While we actually follow, we pass the resolution saying it's inapplicable in case there was a technical error. This then prohibits them from challenging the tax levy on the technical error because we didn't levy in excess of 5%. So we want the public communications component of the truth in taxation. We don't want the tax objection piece of the truth in taxation.
Covering all
This is just a
bases.
legal, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so that's.
So it's a legalism, making sure that there's no appeal basis here. Are there any other questions or comments? Call the roll on 13A3.
Lays,
Aye.
Graham,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McGrath,
Aye.
Burke,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Aye. Okay, 13B is the approval of 2010-2011 tuition cost per pupil. Board Policy 6003, student residency requires that non-resident students be charged tuition as established by the Board of Education in accordance with the school code. 2010-2011 annual financial report sets the tuition charge per pupil at $14,354.23, a decrease of $1,348.84, or 8.6% over last year's tuition. The district has traditionally used this amount as the established tuition for the district. The recommendation is that the Board of Education approves the 2010-2011 tuition cost per pupil of $14,354.23. Is there a motion? Burke, second, Graham. Okay, now vote.
Well, first, is it really 2010, 2011?
So the correction, it's not part of the,
And it is 2011 and 2012, we're talking about the
Yes.
current year's tuition for right now.
students are currently paying the tuition?
I know for sure we have 2, and there may be a 3rd.
Grade South. Grade South. And could you give a brief explanation of the reasons that they're, like, what was it, 10%?
We had the budget reductions that went into effect for the 2011 fiscal year. So because we reduced our budget, the tuition cost is based on our expenditures. You can see the translation into the decrease in the tuition.
That's a good number for the budget cuts. Aggregate was 8.6%.
Correct. There are some areas that are excluded from, like capital outlay is excluded, so that's why it was less than 10% cut we actually made.
Okay, thanks.
So there's a formula we use to determine this?
There is a formula that the state uses to determine it, and it's in the AFR. So the auditors, as part of the AFR, prepare that formula.
Any other questions? Okay, my motion was Burke and Grant. Eldon, any objection to correcting the
No.
motion to approving as 2011, 2012?
Correct, please, correct.
So we're setting it for this year's?
This year's.
Okay, so the motion is amended, moving the second group. So the motion reads that the Board of Education approved the 2011-2012 tuition cost per pupil of $14,354.23. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
McGrath. Aye. Blaze.
Aye.
Burke.
Yes.
Graham. Yes. Miller.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye. Number 14, revised 457 plan document. Recommendation that the Board of Education adopt section 457B deferred compensation plan document for Maine Township High School District 207 as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Graham, second. Second, Lays. Questions or comments on the motion?
Couple of questions.
Okay.
I have a question that changes, but, who's appointing the plan administrator and who is the plan administrator?
The plan administrator, technically, I guess, is the district, as I sign off.
Then
I'm the
The
plan
definition in here of.
It's
the
Mary.
It's me. I mean, I sign the paperwork as plan administrator,
Because
but I
it
don't
says
believe
here-
I've ever been
The
appointed.
district
Individual
administrates.
entity appointed by the employer, which is the district.
The district administrates the plan, but there is a plan administrator who generally is a CFO.
Yes. So I sign the limited document. I make sure that anything I'm signing, it follows the plan document, and then I sign as plan administrator.
Do we have to appoint her?
No, it's an administrative thing.
Okay.
If Ken really wanted to take it on himself, he could take it on himself. But
I don't think he does.
I can tell you where I work, the CFO is stuck doing it as well.
Do we have fiduciary coverage for that?
The district ultimately has liability for it, there's no question about it. And Mary, you're bonded as well?
I am bonded to last year
Right.
because of the student activity funds. We went out and bought a surety bond.
So, but that was not bond on an error because the district itself will be responsible for the error. All I can tell you is that, you know, my experience is that we make the companies as much as possible adhere to the plan
Absolutely.
document. But is there a guarantee of 100% accuracy? No, because some of those documents come in, you know, the hardships, there are multiple
Well, and
page
that's
documents.
why if you notice the 457 plan has very limited provisions.
For exception.
Yeah,
It's in,
exactly.
it stays in. You know, the only thing that I, tend to see problems with, or I've seen problems with plans like this is, the money goes to the wrong place, or the money doesn't go there in time, or somebody's complaining about how fast money gets there, and that's where you end up with problems. I mean, you do have about as limited a plan as you can get, which is probably a wise move, I think.
And we're a direct pay, so we pay the vendors after each payroll.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second, please call the roll.
Miller. McGrath.
Aye.
Blaze.
Aye.
Graham.
Yes.
Burke.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Aye, motion passes. 15, Maine West Yearbook Contract, the Board of Education authorized superintendent of schools to enter into a contract with the above listed organization. as outlined in November 2011 memo contained in the appendices. And the above listed organization is?
Irv Jones.
Okay. Mr. Lays, second. Second Burke. Questions or comments? Hearing none, call roll.
Lays,
Aye.
Grant,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Miller, McGrath, Sullivan.
Aye. New club proposals. First one is the H2O Club at Main South. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Burke, second. Club proposal, second. Graham. Yeah, it was Graham. Wasn't it? You laughed so hard, I thought it was you. Strike Graham, make it McGrath. On the H2O Club. Okay. Questions or comments?
I do, just not looking to slow this down, but is there any issue on this HBO club? It's a religious organization that's using it over. You know, and I wasn't asking for donor charge, just saying there's, we didn't have a choice but to turn it down, but that doesn't seem to be a problem.
We don't have a choice.
We're just providing access and space, right?
It goes further than that. We have to give it club status. That's a key demarcation.
So we've been advised that we have to do this?
Yes. Carefully research.
No, I thought it was possible, I thought maybe running into trouble by endorsing religious organizations.
That was my question. That was my question when it first came up. And
Yeah, no staff member can lead, they can be there to supervise an incident.
any other questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Lays,
Aye.
McGrath,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Burke, Grant, Sullivan.
Aye. Also in 16, the Sci-Fi Club, is there a motion?
We would actually like to pull that application.
Okay. The principal has pulled the Sci-Fi Club for this month. Next item, 17, calendar items. There's a special board workshop on December 15th at 5:30 p.m. in the conference room. December 23rd through January 6th. We are on winter break. School resumes Monday, January 9th. During the break, the main office of the high schools and administration center will be open on the following dates: December 23rd, 27th, 28th, 29th, and January 3, 4, 5, and 6. January 9th, there's a 7 p.m. regular meeting of the board here. And January 16th is Martin Luther King Holiday. Are there any other comments on the agenda, other than what we discussed earlier for committee meetings?
We need to schedule a finance committee meeting. I was gonna suggest, I'd circulated a 22nd date, maybe move the 29th, work better. That was for the January meeting, we need a December meeting as well.
Do we need a?
No,
Mary said she needed a meeting.
or perhaps also, we could go into January, because the meeting is very late in January. We could go 5th, is it Thursday?
You couldn't really, I mean, it makes it,
Well, Margaret, you're out that week.
I am.
What about the 29th?
We actually leave like 6 o'clock in the morning on the 30th, so.
Should we pack?
I will be packing.
If you want to come over and help pack.
do Wednesday morning, Saturday, that week, or the week before
Yeah,
that?
Wednesday morning, the 28th.
Yeah.
What's your day like that day? Downtown early?
You know, I always like to do that early, but other than that, it's probably be more relaxed.
Yeah, what's the anticipated duration of the meeting?
Probably now, I mean, again, it depends on how many questions you guys have, but, an hour. Follett, the bookstore concept is being introduced, so that might take a little bit longer. I mean, I sent out some information this month on that, but I don't know, I didn't get any questions, but I don't know if that means there are no questions, or you're just waiting
Is
for.
that like an e-book store or something?
It's just contracting out, students would buy books from Follett instead of us.
Follett would come in and actually run the bookstore.
No,
They wouldn't
they
come
would
on
not run
campus?
our bookstore, we would just be outsourcing the book sale component of our bookstore.
They do also already have e-files, which you can electronically purchase books, and they ship them to you.
There must be other things though, besides that.
We've got, if we get any bids on our house, a recommendation on the bids for the house will come. We are bringing back, we talked about collection agencies, and there was some additional information the board asked for. We have budget parameters that we have to set for the 12-13 budget. We have the point of sale system quote. We also have like a dashboard financial report that I prepared that I want to roll out to you guys.
8 a.m. with it.
Works for me, Margaret, or
8 is fine, just recognize I have,
December 28th.
8:30, you have to be out or what?
well, 9 o'clock, although, you know, it's dependent on a number of things that I don't have control over. Kind of developing what to do on the 30th, so. If you want.
And I'll get the packets out by the end of this week.
I'm good anytime.
Earlier would be a challenge that week, especially for me. There's always that week, will be a busy week, so I'll be right late Tuesday.
Okay, so your date is what?
December 28th at 8 a.m.
Any other calendar items? Hearing none, are there any other communications that come before the board? Hearing none. Mr. Deeth, do we have any student personnel items?
No student personnel.
Okay. Have a motion to go to closed session. Have a motion to go to closed session to review closed session minutes, the appointment, employment, compensation, performance, discipline, and dismissal of specific employees, properly implemented pending litigation and collective negotiating matters. Graham, second. Clerk, questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Miller? Graham? Yes. Burke?
Yes.
McGrath? Lays?
Aye.
Sullivan?
All right. We are in closed session at 8:30.